Hello dear students, I welcome you all to this lecture. The theme for today's deliberation is Development as Conflict Resolution Mechanism. The lecture aims to provide you with comprehensive understanding of the topic, and in doing so, the key objectives of the lecture are to understand the meaning of development, to define conflict and its types, and discuss and debate the role of development as a conflict resolution mechanism. And finally, I will conclude the lecture by talking about a few case studies relevant to this. Let me begin by discussing and defining the meaning of development. To begin with, development is an elusive term that means different things to different groups of social scientists. Most would agree, however, that development implies more than just a rise in real national income. It must be a sustained secular rise in real income accompanied by change in social attitudes and customs which have in the past impeded economic progress. Development is a dynamic process that fosters growth, progress, and positive transformation. It serves as a vital indicator of a healthy society. It's a process that creates growth, brings in progress and positive change. The concept of development is used to refer to the total transformation of a system towards a positive direction. Development implies a progression from a lower and often undesirable state to a high and preferred one. According to the United Nations Development Programme, development is to lead long and healthy lives, to be knowledgeable, to have access to the resources needed for a decent standard of living, and to be able to participate in the life of community. Achieving human development is linked to a third perspective of development, which views it as freeing people from obstacles that affect their ability to develop their own lives and communities. Development is a multi-dimensional phenomenon. Some of its major dimensions include the level of economic growth, level of education, level of health services, degree of modernization, level of nutrition, quality of housing, distribution of goods and services, and access to communication. Over the years, the concept of development has undergone many changes. Initially, development would mean catching up with the West in terms of economic growth and modernization of the societies. However, in the contemporary times, it is seen as a comprehensive societal process to move the underdeveloped nations from their state of economic backwardness and slow social cultural changes to a dynamic state characterized by sustained economic growth and socio-cultural and political transformation that improves the quality of life of all members of the society. According to scholars and practitioners, development can be broadly divided into two: economic development and human development. Economic development refers to the process whereby simple, low-income national economies are transformed into modern industrial economies. Economic development, sometimes used as a synonym for economic growth, is employed to describe a change in a country's economy involving qualitative as well as quantitative improvements. Economic development first became a major concern after the World War II. As the era of European colonialism ended, many former colonies and other countries with low living standards were characterized as underdeveloped economies. As living standards in most of these poor countries began to rise in subsequent decades, they were renamed as developing economies. Human development, on the other hand, may be defined as an expansion of human capabilities, a widening of choices, an enhancement of freedom, and a fulfillment of human rights. Human development grew out of global discussions on the links between economic growth and development during the second half of the 20th century. In 1970s and 80s, development debate considered using alternative focuses to go beyond gross domestic product, including putting greater emphasis on employment, followed by redistribution with growth, and then whether people had their basic needs met. These ideas helped pave the way for human development approach, which is about expanding the richness of human life rather than simplifying the richness of economy in which human beings live. It's an approach that is focused on creating fair opportunities and choices for all people. Based on the notion of Human Development Index was constructed. It serves as a more humane measure of development than a strictly income-based benchmark of per capita gross national product. The first Human Development Report, published in the year 1990, developed by the United Nations Development Programme, looks not only at the total amount of wealth in a society as GDP does, nor even at its distribution as with the Gini index, but at the overall outcome of that wealth, the well-being of a country's people. The Human Development Index takes into consideration such factors as adult literacy, life expectancy, and educational enrollment, as well as GDP. In other words, the achievement of economic growth must be judged in terms of its impact on the lives and well-being of people, as argued by Mahbubul Haq, the pioneer of human development philosophy. To help monitor poverty, inequality, and gender empowerment across multiple human development dimensions, 4 additional composite indices have also been developed, which are the Multi-Dimensional Poverty Index, second, the Inequality Adjusted Human Development Index, the third, Gender Development Index, and the fourth, the Gender Inequality Index. Dear students, now let us talk about the conflict and its meaning. Since the dawn of civilization on this planet, conflict has remained an important part of human society, from the individual level to the international level. It is the biological and cultural survival or national interest of a state which defines the demand and supply of states according to their needs and causes conflict among the parties. Conflict also refers to situations of disagreement between groups or individuals over some collective goals, means of achieving such goals, or the distribution and allocation of collectively owned resources. In other words, defining conflict also depends on the nature of conflict as something that takes place into society. Conflict is commonly understood as a form of opposition between parties, an absence of agreement between parties, a way to solve social contradictions, a natural process in human social interaction. Conflict is an inevitable phenomenon and has various causes to erupt among societies and states. Conflict are long-lasting aspects of human behavior and social relationships. With the modification of societies, the causes and consequences of conflict remain unpredictable, but some basic principles are the same, as any unresponded conflict is a threat to the traditional and non-traditional security of industrial states. According to Johann Galtung, the founder of peace and conflict studies, an action system is said to be in conflict if the system has 2 or more incompatible goal states. R.C. Michel states that conflict is a situation in which 2 or more human beings desire goals that they perceive as being obtained by one or the other, but not both. This compact definition can be clarified by saying that there must be at least 2 parties, each mobilizing energy to obtain a goal, a desired object or situation, and each party perceives others as a barrier to that goal. The 20th century witnessed more than 250 conflicts and over 100 million casualties, and most of them were civilians. In fact, 20th century was the most murderous in recorded history. The total number of deaths caused by or associated with its conflicts across globe has been estimated at 187 million, the equivalent of more than 10% of the world's population in 1913. Taken as having begun in 1914, it was a century of almost unbroken war, with a few and brief periods without organized armed conflict somewhere. It was dominated by world wars, that is to say, by wars between territorial states or alliances of states. The period from 1914 to 1945 can be regarded as a single 30 years war interrupted only by a pause in the 1920s. Dear students, this brings me to another section of this lecture, which is about development and conflict, relation between the two. It is widely acknowledged that development and conflict are inherently contradictory. On the one hand, the absence or unequal distribution of development can give rise to conflicts. On the other hand, conflicts rooted in factors such as poverty, inequality, inadequate infrastructure, and limited access to basic amenities can be effectively addressed through development initiatives. There is evidence to show that economic growth can reduce the risk of conflict in low-income countries. This fits with the classical view put by Keynes that economic development would turn interests against passions, binding people together in denser sets of economic relationships and making it less likely that any group would spoil stable cooperation by resorting to violence or conflict. In short, traditionally viewed as an instrument for economic growth, social progress, and political stability, development is increasingly recognized as a potent tool for resolving conflicts within societies at national and international levels. Dear students, let us explore and elaborate on the relationship between development and conflict resolution, shedding light on how targeted development initiatives can address root causes, foster inclusivity, and contribute to lasting peace. In this regard, some of the key factors are: first, development and conflict nexus. At the hearts of many conflicts lies issues such as economic disparity, social inequality, and political instability. Therefore, development interventions acknowledges these underlying factors, aiming to create a conducive environment for conflict resolution. By addressing the structural and systematic imbalances that fuel tensions, development becomes a proactive force in mitigating conflicts. Second, economic development and poverty alleviation. Economic disparities often serve as breeding grounds for social discontent and strife. Development initiatives that focus on poverty alleviation, job creation, and equitable resource distribution not only lift communities out of deprivation but also reduce the socio-economic grievances that can escalate into conflicts. Sustainable economic development acts as a stabilizing force by fostering shared prosperity. Third, social development for inclusivity. Social divisions along ethnic, religious, or cultural lines can be sources of tension and conflict. Development programs that prioritize education, healthcare, and social inclusion create pathways for harmonious coexistence. By empowering marginalized communities, development becomes a bridge for fostering understanding, acceptance, and a sense of shared identity. Fourth, political development and governance. Weak governance structures and political instability are often catalysts for conflicts. Development as a conflict resolution mechanism emphasizes the importance of institution building, good governance, and the rule of law. Transparent and accountable political systems contribute to stability by addressing political grievances and power imbalances. Fifth, infrastructure development and community stability. Basic infrastructure such as reliable utilities and transportation network is foundational to community stability. Development projects that prioritize these elements contribute to an improved quality of life and create an environment less prone to conflict. Rural development initiatives further bridge the urban-rural divide, addressing disparities and preventing potential sources of tension. Number 6, reconciliation initiatives within development. Development programs can be designed to include specific components focused on reconciliation. Bringing together communities with historical grievances, fostering dialogue, and promoting understanding is integral to the success of development as a conflict resolution mechanism. These initiatives aim not only to address immediate conflicts but also to establish stability. Number 7, conflict-sensitive development strategies. To maximize the effectiveness of development as a conflict resolution mechanism, it is essential to adapt conflict-sensitive approaches. These strategies ensure that development interventions do not inadvertently exacerbate existing tensions. By identifying potential triggers and root causes, development initiatives can actively contribute to conflict prevention. Number 8, challenges and considerations. While the potential of development as a conflict resolution mechanism is significant, it is not without challenges. Unintended consequences, cultural nuances, and differing local contexts can influence the outcomes of development efforts. A nuanced and context-specific approach therefore becomes crucial in navigating these challenges and ensuring the success of conflict resolution through development. Thus, when strategically employed, development emerges as a powerful and sustainable mechanism for conflict resolution. By addressing the underlying causes of conflict across economic, social, and political spheres, development contributes to the creation of stable, prosperous, and harmonious societies. The key lies in recognizing the complexity of the relationship between development and conflict, adopting context-specific strategies, and actively involving and benefiting the communities affected. In embracing development as a conflict resolution mechanism, societies pave the way for enduring peace and shared prosperity. Dear students, now let us discuss few case studies. As discussed earlier, development when strategically applied has the potential to act as a powerful mechanism for conflict resolution. In this regard, the two important specific case studies where targeted developmental initiatives have played a pivotal role in mitigating conflicts, addressing root causes, and fostering sustainable peace in Rwanda and Colombia. Let me talk about the Rwanda rebuilding through the socio-economic development. The Rwandan genocide of 1994 left the country deeply scarred with ethnic tensions and violence at the core of conflict. In the aftermath, Rwanda embraced a comprehensive development strategy focused on economic recovery, social cohesion, and political stability. The purpose was to mitigate the conflict and build a system binding different ethnic groups together. Some of the important development initiatives include economic empowerment, programs promoting entrepreneurship, agriculture, and small-scale industries were implemented to address poverty and create economic opportunities. Second, educational reforms. Investment in education aimed at fostering national identity, tolerance, and reconciliation. Number third, healthcare improvements. Initiatives to improve healthcare infrastructure and services for all citizens. Subsequently, Rwanda's commitment to development as a conflict resolution mechanism has led to remarkable progress. Economic growth, improved living standards, and a focus on education and healthcare have contributed to a more stable and cohesive society. The emphasis on inclusivity and shared development goals has played a crucial role in rebuilding trust and fostering national unity. The another important case study is Colombia. Decades of armed conflict between Colombian government and various insurgents and non-state actors such as Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia created a complex and protracted conflict. However, to address that, several developmental programs were initiated in order to address the crisis, which include rural development. Peace agreements included provisions for rural development to address historical grievances related to land distribution. Second, economic reintegration. Programs to reintegrate former combatants into society through vocational training and job creation. Number third, infrastructure investment. Projects to improve infrastructure in conflict-affected regions. While the peace process in Colombia is ongoing, integrating development into peace agreements has shown promising results. Efforts to address economic disparities and provide opportunities for former combatants have contributed to the gradual reduction of violence, showcasing the potential for development in post-conflict resolution. These two case studies underscore the potential of development as a conflict resolution mechanism. Whether rebuilding a post-genocidal society, integrating development into peace agreements, or fostering economic and social transformation, these examples demonstrated that targeted development initiatives can address root causes, build trust, and contribute to sustained peace within a society. However, it is essential to recognize the context-specific nature of these endeavors and the need for long-term inclusive strategies for lasting impact. To conclude, the concept of development as a conflict resolution mechanism refers to the idea that socio-economic development can contribute to resolving various forms of conflicts within societies. This perspective recognizes that underlying issues such as economic disparities, social inequality, and political instability can be addressed through targeted development initiatives. In this regard, the implementation of policies that promote equitable distribution of resources, ensure fair wages, and foster inclusive social programs can play a pivotal role in bridging the gap between different segments of society. Adopting a holistic approach to development not only addresses the root causes of a conflict but also paves the way for sustainable peace and prosperity. By investing in human capital and creating an enabling environment for all members of a society, we can foster a sense of belonging and shared responsibility. Moreover, it is crucial to recognize that development and conflict resolution are not mutually exclusive endeavors. In fact, they are interdependent and can reinforce each other. By addressing the underlying socio-economic factors that contribute to conflicts, we can lay the foundation for long-term peace and stability. The pursuit of development and the resolution of conflicts go hand in hand. By prioritizing comprehensive strategies that promote equal opportunities, equal resource distribution, and inclusive social programs, we can create a society that thrives on growth, stability, and harmony. With this, dear students, I conclude the lecture. Thank you for joining me. Hope to see you again with a new topic for discussion. Till then, goodbye and take care.